What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team.
How are you? Is work still, are you still in the shit? Are you still in the belly of the beast?
In the belly of the beast. However, although I've been skipping out on the scorecard meetings, my sleep, I've been doing really well. I'll show you guys. Sleep, bring up my sleep app. So I'm finally in the green for the last handful of days.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's made all the difference in the world. I got like a little bit of a bug last week, like a tiny minuscule little cold sort of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I swear it's because of my sleep. It didn't, expand into something else.
Yeah.
To the point where it didn't really, impact my day or my workouts at all. So, and I think I have to say I owe that to sleep. There was a great interview by, I forget his name, one of the three or four time winner of the CrossFit Games, Matt Frazier. And he's like, sleep, if they could bottle it, it would be an illegal substance or a banned substance. And I just completely agree with that.
Because it gives you such an edge?
Yep. It's unbelievable, man. It's so wild. Every time.
It's performance enhancing?
Yeah. Every time we talk about this, I know, I say the same thing over and over again. But when I recommit to it, and it takes a little bit of time, it's not like, I can just go and get one night of sleep and then feel phenomenal, which I feel really good relative to the prior day. But if I get 4 or 5 days of solid sleep, like 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night, I'm a different human afterwards, man. Like really, really am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was Andrew Huberman on like a little clip that I saw where his top 5 things for performance were sleep, nutrition, exercise, connection, like not being isolated. And then the 5th one might have been sunlight.
Yes, definitely.
So
speaking of that,
definitely a pillar.
Speaking of that, they just opened this, I think it's called Restore. It's this sort of rejuvenation place around the corner from my house. And one of the things I'm going to start doing is red light therapy. I want to try it. I've heard enough about it now. Andrew Huberman talks about it. But apparently red light therapy and infrared therapy, I know very little about this, but it's something along the lines of those lights come at certain wavelengths, and those wavelengths can penetrate the skin and perhaps even down to the mitochondria to give it energy. And that's about as far as my scientific understanding goes. But apparently enough people have tried it now, and Andrew Huberman approves of it, so I'm going to start trying it as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got a friend who's mad into all that stuff, like sound therapy. And he's got like the cold plunge tank at home. He's got that a big wall of like red light.
Red light, yeah.
Yeah.
Is this the Wall Street guy or no?
Nope. This is he's actually in the music business. He does like he has a recording studio and comes up with jingles for commercials and stuff like that. And he's just obsessed with biohacking or whatever you want to call it. And the music is his primary entry point, right? In terms of like developing apps. And it's hard for me to explain with my limited understanding of all this stuff. But like, for example, if your Apple Watch senses your pulse getting elevated because of stress, your headphones can automatically play sounds that will, until your pulse reduces to the normal level, right? So something like that. And then he's also set up, and he currently has set up this crazy lab in downtown Toronto where you have like a screen for the visual, headphones for the sound, and a chair that kind of moves and massages you as well for that kind of like 360 experience. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm dying to go.
Yeah, interesting. We talked about this book before, the body keeps the score, written about trauma.
Right.
I'm not fully completed yet, but they do talk about a lot of coping mechanisms and therapies to go along with it. And oftentimes it seems like relatively immediate intervention. You know,
Yeah.
when your heart rate starts increasing, do this, and that's what I hear. What your friend Zap does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so for my learning segment, everything's fine over there, right?
Yep. Drop the phone.
Okay. For my learning segment this morning on the scorecard, I looked up David Kiersey, Kiersey, famous for the book Please Understand Me, and Please Understand Me Too, which I believe is one of your top 5 books. Like that's one of your desert island picks.
Yep.
Correct?
Probably number 1. Probably top 3. Yep.
Yeah, and I had a really good experience. Like I watched one of those kind of animated, like 5-minute YouTube videos, you know, where the guy kind of draws the summary of the book. Yeah, and so the history of it, from what I briefly learned, is that Carl Jung came up with all these archetypes, right? Carl Jung was a student of Freud, and he came up with all these archetypes of the different hero's quest we're on, how trauma informs how we act as adults, the different kind of like the personality types that you have out there. Myers and Briggs were a mother-daughter team who synthesized this information into more of a psychiatrist, psychologist test and manual for assessing different psychological conditions. Correct, more or less?
Yep.
And it was David Kiersey's father who kind of voraciously studied Myers-Briggs, and then David himself kind of massaged took his turn at the lineage of this kind of like personality type science. And so specifically it's the idea of temperaments. Now, somebody's temperament is as old as like ancient Greece, right? Like someone who's got more fire inside them or more water inside them or whatever, right? These kind of ideas of different personality types has been around as long as people have gathered in civilization. And but to fast forward to the present day, so David Kiersey's temperaments are, as he understands them, are a combination of our personality traits, our personal needs, the kind of work we do, and the kind of role we perform in our society. Anything to add so far?
Yeah, well, a whole bunch. It's my favorite book, one of my favorite books, and I have the textbook that goes along with it.
Right.
And this textbook, man, just summarizes everything beautifully. Like, I don't know if you can see it on screen here, but
graphs it out and charts it out.
The 4 basic categories. So yes, Ray, I agree with you. And this textbook outlines that as well, that it seems like throughout human documented history, we've been putting people in categories, and it seems like that it's been a pretty consistent 4 different categories, with oftentimes 4 subcategories under each of those 4 pillars, if that makes sense.
Yep. Are those 4 categories the artisan, the guardian, the idealist, and the rational?
Correct.
So the artisan, some of the traits of the artisan are bold, daring, optimistic, and persuasive. Anything else to add? Yeah,
so just a quick disclaimer on this in a positive way. When I didn't fully understand myself until I was probably like 28.
And I'm still on that journey.
Man, I had people tell me, because I was pretty much introverted except for in different categories, and I stayed in those categories. So that introverted part never really obvious to me. And I was always highly rational and analytical, but I never knew it because my friend groups weren't. So that skill set was kind of suppressed, if that makes sense. And I would just get glimpses every now and again where a friend would be like, "Oh yeah, Wes is different, right? Or he's weird, or whatever," in a joking way. Or I finally had somebody say to me in college, it was my girlfriend at the time, her friend. She's like, "Oh, I would never want to argue with you, Wes, because you're ridiculously analytical and rational." And I literally was like, "I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even really know what that means." And then finally, years later, I read this book, and this was after going through Wall Street and doing all the spreadsheet work, where I started to understand that I liked doing that stuff and my peers necessarily didn't. And so anyway, these 4 categories are so helpful. I would highly recommend everybody read the book. But if you don't have a chance to, so the 4 categories are artisan, guardian.
Wes, for those who, before anybody reads the book, if they want, go to our Discord, and I put a link to the little animated YouTube video that I watched, plus a temperament test, plus which kind of like, so it's like a 70 question, 70 item questionnaire, and then it'll spit out your personality type, and then there's another link to what your 4-letter personality type, the typical traits are. So I just did the journey this morning that you're talking about, where it brought me right back to, why my learning style wasn't really compatible with the school system, why I struggled at school, and why, like, my wife's desire for me to work at a bank or my desire to work at a law firm was just fighting the universe. Like, when I look at, the way God made me, So go ahead into the 4 types of temperaments.
So, okay, so this is kind of like a quick cheat code. I wonder, I might be able to redo this page and send it out to the group or put it on our Discord. But real quick, for an artisan, what you generally value is generosity, creativity, and adaptability. So for a guardian, what you value is security, authority, and respectability. Idealists value integrity and human development. Oftentimes they value deep relationships. And then for rationals, they value knowledge, competence, reason, and achievement. So real quick again, artisans value potency, generosity, creativity, and adaptability. Guardians value experience, security, authority, and respectability. Idealists value meaning, integrity, and human development. Rationals value knowledge, competence, reason, and achievement. I also think it's very important to go through, all of these categories are great, but what they need. And this is really important. So for instance, if you have a partner or a spouse or, a coworker, it's really important, in my opinion, to know what they are and to know what they need and how they get things done. With my assistant, all the time, I'm intersecting with her. She's an idealist. So she communicates things in a way that can sometimes be frustrating to me, because she indexes way more towards the side of feelings and relationships with people. Whereas I am more about that's okay, but we need to solve this problem right now.
And stop right there, Wes.
The way that we solve it. Yep.
And once upon a time, I would have thought that your assistant is a bad employee or a bad worker, or there's something wrong with her, right? But and in other words, I'm a bad worker, I'm a bad employee. What's wrong with me? Because you're describing me more than you're than the description of her is more how I see myself than the description of you just made. But what this helped me understand this morning is that there's nothing wrong with me. It's just this is my lane, and so I've got to find work or create a life that's in that lane if I want. This lane might have the least friction for me.
Exactly. And it's important to know, at least the theory is, that these temperaments were derived from evolution, from us evolving as humans and groups together. So we had a reason for each one of these individuals. And I would argue that that's now extended into the workplace, the family place. You need each type.
Each village requires an artisan, guardian, idealist, and a rational.
Right, exactly. So in terms of their needs, the artisan needs freedom to act on impulse and flexibility in their work to make spontaneous decisions. This drives me fucking crazy. Absolutely crazy. So my girlfriend, for instance, lands in this category. And And it's really hard for me. But I can tell you, like yesterday, we spontaneously went to the beach. And while like my rational brain is like, well, we didn't plan for this. Thank God I already built a beach backpack for this spontaneity, because we would not have been ready for anything. I still don't really want to go. But then anyway, we go and it's a great time, right? It's like a small microcosmic example of like, that's something I would not have done because I would have tried to plan for 3 weeks for it. So the next is Guardian. They need routines, stability, structures, family processes, and clearly defined rules to do their best work. One of my best friends is a Guardian to the T. And some of you guys may have met him. His name's Kevin. He lost 100 pounds in a weight loss journey. And I was training him. And one time, it was back in Philadelphia. We would go and do the gym routines every day at the gym. It became sunny in Philadelphia because it was springtime, and I called him about 2 hours before we were about to go off to the workout. I was like, "Hey, man, we're gonna work out outside today," and there's just silence on the other line, right? Like he's like, "What do you mean we're gonna work out outside?" Well, I said, "Well, we're gonna go out work outside because it's nice and sunny. It's 70 degrees." He's like, "But
and is this where you like run like a cheetah and like
yeah, the animal flow stuff." Yeah. So, but he's like, "Well, we normally work out at the gym." So we go back and forth 15 minutes because he can't break the pattern in his head. He needs structure and routine. Even the most like tiny change in his routine like sends him through a loop. So anyway, that's what Guardians need. Idealists need meaningful work, relational connection, and a personal imaginative work environment. That's an idealist.
Give me those again.
Yep. Meaningful work, relational connection, and a personal imaginative work environment.
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
And then for me, where I land is the rational, and I need worthwhile challenges and autonomy to be able to solve complex problems.
So just to round it up, the four types of temperaments as Kiersey defines them are artisan, guardian, idealist, and rational. An artisan is bold, daring, optimistic, and persuasive. He values generosity, potency, and creativity. He needs freedom to be impulsive and spontaneous. The guardian is traditional, law-abiding, and cautious. He values security, authority, and respectability. He needs routine, structure, and clearly defined rules. An idealist is intuitive, compassionate, and empathetic. He values integrity and meaning. He needs meaningful work, personal connections, and an imaginative work environment. The rational is calm, logical, strategic, and pragmatic. He values knowledge and achievement. He needs worthwhile challenges and autonomy.
Yep.
So that's not all the words, but that is that's kind of like, so for the gentlemen watching and listening, they maybe they can start to think of which one of those roles or avatars kind of like resonates with them.
Yep.
Right.
And then it's helpful, especially if you have a spouse or you have a significant other, where you can say, okay, well, just because they're not like me, what can I count on them, or what type of tasks can I count on them to do? So there's a section here for this. So for the artisan, they can be counted on just doing it, right? The guardian can be counted on to what they say, mind the store, right? Attending to the details of a project, diligently seeking it through to completion. That's my buddy to a T, right? Idealists can be counted on to see the best in people, nurturing warm, loving relationships and finding new possibilities. And rationals, like myself, can be counted on to think outside the box, offering new ideas and strategies for accomplishing a well-defined long-term goal.
And so this is a list of what they can be counted. So like we've got what they are, what they value, what they need, and what they can be counted on for.
Yep, exactly. And this is so true. Like for my girlfriend, man, I could say, hey, let's go to Toronto in 15 minutes to see Ray, and she would be on it. Like,
let's roll.
Yeah, she'd be like, all right, we're going to go to 7-Eleven real quick. We're going to get a bunch of snacks, and we'll be on our way. Or I'll call out of work right now. Like, just like get it done. Just do it right now.
Yeah, and so like by doing the 70, and again, it's like this is not hard, but it's one of these things that life and our to-do list will never prioritize unless we sit down and do it, right? So like by doing the Keirsey temperament test, I hoped to better understand who I am, what I need, what I like, and what I want. And that's just something I wrote to myself in the journaling segment today. So we'll fast forward. We'll do let's say we did the 70 item questionnaire, and you get your temperament type. So do you want to define the letters? Because it comes in like a 4. Your score gets broken down into E, I, S, N, T, F, J, and P. And if like the lads can see here, right? So like this was all the questions like, are you drawn more to fundamentals or overtones? Which seems to be the greater error, to be too passionate or to be too objective? It's kind of like SAT style. And then your score gets broken down into these 2, 4, 6, 8 different categories, right? And so the 4 highest scoring sections defines your 4-letter code. And so mine is a ENFP. Just now, off the top of my head, like the artisan and the idealist really resonated with me when we were talking about the description and what they like, what they need, right? And so, again, like I should feel no shame for not succeeding in a law firm or not succeeding at a bank if my skill set is, if I am optimistic and persuasive, if I value generosity and creativity, if I need the freedom to be impulsive and spontaneous, if I can be counted on to see the best in others, like that's not something a bank or a law firm requires for their bottom line. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, or like being able to work in an inspiring environment. Like I worked in a jail cell for basically 7 years, and didn't care at all. Like it didn't bother me at all. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Dude, it's so important. So if we go through the letters, so the first letter is
so I don't hate myself today. Right? I don't consider myself a failure today. And this just reminded me of that. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's like what was that Einstein quote? Like you don't ask a fish to climb a tree. And if you do, then you think it's stupid. But really the reality is you're the stupid one for asking this being to do something that's not natural to its abilities.
Nature. Yeah.
Yeah. So E versus I is extroverted versus introverted, right? So that is where this is oftentimes confused. It's not can you talk to people or can you communicate in large groups? It's where do you get your energy from?
Yeah.
So I get my energy from going into my cave and not talking to anybody for a while.
Right.
Right. Or just 1 or 2 people. That's it. Right. The next is N versus T, which is
I got S versus N.
Yeah, S versus N. So it's intuition versus sensing. So my brief understanding of this is like, do you like the painting or do you like the strokes of the painting? Right? Do you want to know what time it is, or would you rather know how the watch works, sort of a thing? So that's my limited understanding of S of I, because I always get confused by that S versus N. Ray, I don't know if you have any other clarification on those letters.
I'm listening and learning.
Okay, so And then the T versus F. So this is thinking versus feeling, which I think is pretty obvious. And then the last is P versus J. So perceptive versus judgmental. In not judgmental in a negative term. So basically, from my understanding, is like J is you prefer everything to be on time, scheduled, etc. P is you see time in bubbles instead of linearly, like as a sequence. This is what I am. Like I'm an INTP. I do not prefer to use schedules, even though it looks like that to the outside world, because to play the game, to be successful at the game I need to play for my business, I need to be on time and so on. So my competitive drive kind of overrides my natural desire. I cannot stand to be interrupted. I do not like schedules, because if I'm in a project, I want to be able to spend the next 15 hours in there if I want. I don't want some bell dinging and saying, well, now you have to stop just because you got a meeting. So those are the letters.
Right. And like, that what comes to mind is if we raise a topic that you're passionate about, like the alternative minimum tax or something, you do not want breaks. You don't want to use the brakes at all. You just want to keep going.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so sorry, you are INTP. So so that, I guess that means you're more introverted, more intuitive, because we don't have an N. We don't have the N word there, for lack of a better. You know what? I'm just going to look it up. Or, I mean, you look it up too.
Yeah. So from my understanding, the intuitive versus sensing is something to do with, like, sensing has to do with like the physical reality.
Maybe they didn't want to use the I again, because like between E and I, S and N, T and F, P and J, maybe they didn't want to use intuition. They didn't want to repeat the I, right?
Yeah. It's let's see here. So it has something to do with like S is sensing, so it has to do with the physical senses. You can see, right, like you can feel what the weather is, you can see it's sunny out and so on, versus I want to know why something is. So more of like the intuitive reasons behind it.
Right.
So if we look up S versus N.
I got you. No, I think it's just a matter of like on a calendar sometimes they'll use R for Thursday instead of T, because T is already used on the Tuesday. That's what I suspect. So you are INTP and I am ENFP. So that means we line up in the perceptive in the last letter, and we line up in the second letter in terms of intuition.
Yep.
Rather than sensing. But then at the first one, I'm extroverted, you're introverted, and the third one, you're thinking and I'm a feeling. So then so I gave the lads 3 links in the Discord. One was to the short video explaining it, the second one was to the quiz, and the third one was to the description of the 16 personality types. And for ENFP, which is the one that I was kind of assigned, the qualities are creative, curious, enthusiastic, versatile, spontaneous, expressive, independent, friendly, perceptive, energetic. Like there's a list of qualities that explain why, not a list of flaws that explain why.
Right.
Right. So that really pumped me up. And let me have a look at you are INTP, correct?
Yep.
So the qualities of an INTP are logical, skeptical, cognitive, detached, theoretical, reserved, precise, independent, speculative, original, autonomous, and self-sufficient. So what do you think of when I describe those 16 qualities of an INTP?
Oh yeah, spot on for me. Like the page in front of me, it says what all of the personalities are seeking. So my personality seeks efficiency, intellectual stimulation, and solutions to problems. Like 100% me. Add autonomy to that list, and like that's me.
And then what
And
about
this
for
is-
ENFP? What are they seeking?
So ENFP, so that's an idealist, right? So relational harmony, good feelings, and self-improvement.
Absolutely.
And then for artisans, it would be seeking stimulation, adventure, variety, and time and space to perfect their skills. And then for guardians, seeking higher levels of responsibility and clear paths to advancement.
Yeah, it's so cool. And like, again, it's like, you know what? I would challenge Phil, who we had on the pod last week, to do this temperament work.
Yep.
Again, for like anyone who's like, and it's like it strikes me that it would be so useful in the job search, the journey, you know, like where you're applying for jobs, because it is so easy to fall into I'm not good enough, or these are my flaws that are preventing me from, you know, rather than like unlocking like the kind of the code to what motivates you.
And it's also possible to fall into the opposite, where actually Kaizen just posted that he's on his second job interview, getting another job interview. He said he's on or job offer. He's on a roll lately. So Kaizen, let us know if you want to come on, buddy. And actually, I'll invite you up here in case you have some time. If not, no sweat. But unbelievably important knowing yourself, because not only knowing that you're not flawed, but also not thinking that you have skills just because an employer is offering you a job. Like, oh, yeah. I see it happen all the time. Like, yeah, I'll take that job. It's paying me $40,000 extra. It's like, you're going to be miserable in that job, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, you do not have the moves for that, brother.
The underlying preferences.
Yeah. All right.
You know, it's so really fascinating.
Kaizen can't join us because he's dedicated to his program. Your program is strong, Kaizen. I see you, brother, and I love you. Yeah. Again, right? Like this kind of know thyself, as Ryan just put in the quotes. This kind of the taking the time to do this self-examination protects you on both sides from feeling worthless, and also like stepping off the ledge into something that really isn't like suited to you. Now feel free to step off the ledge anytime, guys. I mean, as an artist and idealist, you know, I love the impulsivity and the spontaneity. I'm constantly stepping on landmines, but and like bear traps and stuff, you know, like cartoon bear traps. But yeah, this kind of like I'm really looking forward to digging into this. And you know, we've been doing this for 3 years, Wes, and like for some reason, when you throw out a book title, like the idea of a 500-page book kind of stops me in my tracks. But now that I've just gotten a nibble of this, like I think I'm ready to resume the Rhomas book club, where we do a couple of chapters a week or something.
Yeah, I don't think you give yourself enough credit, man. You do a phenomenal job of getting through text. Like really, every time we've selected a book, you've gone through it. So yeah, I'm happy to go through it again and create some learning around this, because I would love to teach the guys this stuff. This has been such a game changer for me, and on a weekly basis. Yeah. Well, let me rephrase this. What Charlie Munger said is it's not good enough just to expose yourself to the material. You have to be so well versed in it where you put it into a mental lattice work in your head where you can access it in 20 seconds in your mind. So it's practicing with it. So this will help me practice with it, but it's on a weekly basis that I find this particular text unbelievably valuable.
Yeah, and I love how we just kind of like, so like the short video, it was 5 minutes, right? So all it really gave me was a definition of the qualities of the artisan, guardian, idealist, and rational. But by taking the hour to go through it with an expert in the material such as yourself, like we can identify this is the cheat sheet, boys. You know, like if you can sort out your likely temperament type, it'll tell you who you are, what you value, what you need, what you seek, and what you can be counted on to do.
Mhm.
Think about that when you're going into a job interview, right? What you can be counted on to do, right? Like, are they looking for someone who just does it, right? Which is very useful. Like in terms, I'm thinking of a waiter in a restaurant who's got to immediately action, or
Or sales.
who's got immediately action. Worse compared to mind the store, right? Which is a very different skill, which is like showing up early, leaving late, and being a steady, right? Steady vessel the whole time.
And like logistics, you know that
Right.
you give this thing to, well, first of all, for my girlfriend, right? She will automatically, she loves when emails come in, right? Because she likes to like reply to them like right away. I despise when emails come in. I do, my assistant checks all of my emails, and I say only give me the really important ones. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. My girlfriend loves it.
So my beef is with your assistant, not with you?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and you know what the interesting thing is, Wes, because I'm just accessing this information for the first time, I'm really looking inside and like understanding myself, whereas you are talking about how you can use it interpersonally.
Oh yeah.
And like understand why someone does something that you don't like or differently than you do, and why you just don't throw them out with the recycling as a result.
100%.
Right,
and when you're allocating projects, super important.
Right. And I can't remember if I've heard this from you yet, but like, oh no. Yeah. So you said about the trip to the beach, right? Where the idealist or artisan in her forced you to the beach against your will, but then you had actually a really stimulating, enriching experience once you were there.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily want to surround yourself with guardians and rationals.
Right. Exactly.
Right? There's
100%.
a reason that villages like there's a reason that like a successful village has each one of these.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and then same thing for the idealist. Well, for the guardian, so you give them logistical things, right? Like I've got 2 guardians on my team, and there are certain projects that I will only give to them because I know they're going to be completed. And they're also going to be completed in a way that's not like laborious for me to talk about feelings and to do it. It's like I can give it to them and then turn my phone off or turn my email off. And then they tell me the next week when it's done. For an idealist, which is the next one, they are constantly seeking how to fulfill a relationship endeavor. So if I have a client-based thing, I give it to another person on my team because I know she's going to call them and say, "Oh my gosh, how are the kids? Ryan just graduated. I remember. Like, how is he doing? Like all this stuff." 45
and like
minutes later,
strengthen the fibers of the bond.
100%. Now, I found myself in the past wanting to go to this person and be like, "Stop talking." Right? Like this should be a 7-second conversation, but that's not for her, right? Like she needs to like get through all of the nooks and crannies of a relationship.
And maybe your village needs that too.
100%, 100%. And then for rationals like myself, I've got one other guy on our team that's a rational. I know like for the spreadsheet work, for the analytical work, and for the strategy, it's us. Like everybody else back off. We have this, I promise. Yeah.
And I suppose that if you armed with this information, your meetings can be a lot more effective if you can selectively, right? Or
no
like
doubt about
project allocation or who you bring to each meeting, right?
Yep. I'm telling you, man, I used to make the mistake of putting one of the guardians who just wants to get stuff done and who's got the assembly line of projects for him and our team. I made the mistake of putting him on some of our client stuff.
Yeah.
Horrible idea. All of a sudden you get 4 or 5 phone calls a couple weeks from there saying, "Hey, who's that guy? Like he didn't feel like he got great bedside manner, or like all of a sudden felt rushed, etc." Yeah.
All right.
Really important, man.
As we approach the top of the hour, Wes, I want to thank you for putting the little lice of information on my head of the David Kiersey book, and it kind of wandered around for 3 years, but I'm super pumped about this stuff. I'm going to send it to my assistant. And would you recommend I give it to my daughter who's 10?
Everyone.
Okay.
Now, it depends on, like, it's a pretty dense book. So not only is it a lot of pages.
Yeah, okay. I mean, what I'm saying is, like, can I start her on the journey of understanding her personality type and everything?
Oh, man. This is like a superpower for everyone. You know, for little kids, it's like, you know, for not that your daughter's too little, but like, understand your superpower. Understand why you are the way you are and what value can contribute to the tribe. And also, don't be confused and letting people convince you should be another way.
You should be an accountant. You should be a whatever, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Well, great combo, man. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah. Always. This was a good one. Thank you, Wes. Love you, brother. Love you all. Love my dogs.
Later, dudes. Later.
Bye for now.